Hello and welcome to our tutorial. So in this tutorial here we're going to work on our non-player character. At the moment we have this sort of sprite holder, placeholder, and we're going to bring in now our actual non-player character sprite. So I'm going to do that by going import new asset and going to my desktop, and I have a folder here called boss sprite, and I'm going to bring this very simple sheet in here. So it comes in as a sprite, which is what we want, and what we want to do is go to the Sprite Editor, and we've done this before in class where we have before we've gone in we have told it not to be single but to be multiple, and then we've gone Sprite Editor and applied our multiple first, and now we can access these tools here. So I'm gonna say I want the pivot point to be at the bottom, which will be bottom center, and then slice it, and then we should have each one of these and they're positioned so that there should be no overlap, and the bottom, so that's all good. So we're going to apply that and close this. So I'm just going to take my first sprite and drop it over here, and it's very big, so we will work on scaling that down in a moment. I'm just going to call this so I'm going to call it non-player character robot. Now I want to give it a scale of say 0.2, maybe 0.3, and then 0.3 on Y. Okay, and we'll go have a look at this guy here. So we need the order and layer for the sprite. So I want to bring him to the front, so we'll set him to be 12 so he can go in front of the player character. Okay, so there he is there. Now we have a whole bunch of things to do to set him up. So first of all we want to add a physics 2D box collider. So that's that there, and then we want to add a physics 2D rigid body 2D so that the character has some physics. So when we press play, he should just fall to the ground. Okay, so far so good. Now what we want to do is we are going to set up some animations on this character. So we're going to go animations, and we've done this before for our player character, so we're going to hit create, and in animations here we're going to say this is called new animation. Well, we can rename that in a minute. Okay, so new animation, and we're going to take our first sprite to our last sprite, because we've only got one. Put it in there, we can press play, and it's a bit too fast, so I'll set this to be maybe 12, and that looks, he's fairly speedy, but we'll leave him like that. Okay, so that's not a bad animation. And we will also add a new create a new clip, and we'll call this one so non-player character 1 still. Okay, and for this one we'll just take in one sprite and put it there, and when we play that he's just still. Okay, so it's going to close this animation window and go back up here and rename that new animation here. So we're going to rename that one, and we're going to call it non-player character. What did we call it? So it's non-player character 1. I'm going to call it walk. Okay, so let's just set that up. So let's go to the controller here. So we want to go to this. We want to set the still to be our default, and we want to set up a transition and a transition. Now notice that I've renamed it over here, but I'm stuck with my mistake over here, but we'll live with that. I'm going to add in a parameter. It's going to be a bool, and we're going to call it walk, and then we're going to say transition from still to animation when walk is true, and then go back to still when walk is false. Okay, so this is all fairly standard, and we've done this before with our player character. So now what we want to do is we're going to close up this animation folder and our sprite folder, and we're going to create a new prefab, and this prefab is going to be called non-player character 1. And now we're going to take the existing non-player character and put it out here and have a little look at what's in this and what scripts are on it and what we can reuse from here. So it's got this non-player character control script. So let's take that script here as a non-player character control, that one there, and we're going to put that onto our character here. Now what do we need? We need to tell it what the bullet will be. We need to tell it where the firing point will be and where the player will be, because we need to work out the distance to the distance to the player. So we can do all of that. So we can drag the player in there, and we can create inside here. We'll create an empty, and that empty is going to be my firing point. So we'll just rename that fire, and we can drag and drop that into the firing point, and then we have our bullet, so we can put that in there. So far so good. So I can press play, and if my player moves forward, my non-player character can fire. Okay, all good. Now so we kind of have gotten to this point before, but with this non-player character, this one up here, and we had added this script, and it had firing at us, and we had this other object, and we had our firing pin here. So I can delete that now. I don't need it. And I'm going to take this here, and I'm going to put it inside my non-player character 1, and okay, and then I can delete that one. Okay. Okay. So we're all good so far. So now what we want to do is we want to build on this a little bit. So I'm going to go back to this script, so this non-player character control script. I'm going to open it up and have a look and see what we can do to get this character to be a bit more dynamic. So the first thing we want to do is we've given him a walk cycle, so we might as well make him walk. Second thing we want to do is if he walks, we want to basically give him a few instructions as to what to do and what he can't do. So I'm going to update here. So we're going to say let's see how we do this. So let's make so we're going to start with this guy here. We're going to take our player and move the player back to the start of the level where they're going to start. I'm going to take this non-player character and give him a patrol area. So I've got so I'm going to create an empty here, and I'm going to call it BG tiles, and I drop all of this artwork in there just to tidy it up a bit, and close up this. I've got my moving platforms, and we've got this lift trigger. So again, I'm going to create an empty, and this is 0 all this out, so 0 0 0. Should have done the same with that one, but doesn't matter. And this one we'll call triggers. Okay, and we'll drop that one in there. Now in this empty here, I'm going to create a sprite. I'm going to place it here, and on that sprite we'll give the sprite a background there, and move it forward in the layer so we can see it, and we'll make it a little bit wider and a little bit taller. And we're going to give it a physics 2D box collider. So what I want is I want my character to walk forward, and when it hits this, it's going to flip around and it's going to walk all the way back. So we're going to call this so non-player character trigger left. Now I probably need to be better with my names because we may have a couple of these, but it's just to show process. So trigger right. So I'm going to take this duplicate and put it up here. Now we're going to turn these off in a minute, but I'll leave them turned on for now just so we can see the collision. So they're both of a box collider. I'm going to give them a tag. So I'm going to add a tag, and the tag I'm going to call NPC turn. Okay, so this guy here, I'm going to give him a tag NPC turn, and I'm going to give him a tag NPC turn. Now, so let's just get him walking first of all, and let's fly back down here to mono develop. So at the moment what we've got is our character doesn't have any movement. So if we look at our player character, player control, what we've said is move the character at times speed when we press a key. So I'm just going to copy that and go to my non-player character control script. If we look at that, that's in update. So over here, let's see if we can do something similar. So I'm going to say transform.translate vector2.write speed. Okay, and we don't have this variable speed, so let's make that. So we'll go public float speed, and we'll say it's equal to 2 for now. We can always make it faster or slower. So we're moving our character. Now we want to create a bool. So public bool, and we'll call this turn, and we'll say it equals false. And this is going to be used to spin him around. So when we do that here with this guy, we rotate him around. So we'll get to that now. But we also have to set, if we look at our player character here, we've got an animator. So we've got an animator, so we can copy that. And over here we're going to need our animator. And we're going to, we have this here, which is our, so we'll put this in start. So set bool walk equal to true, so that's going to be our starting state. So the character is going to start animated, and then we can, what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to get him, when our player character moves within a certain range, he'll stop walking, and we want him to do that. This will be our firing range. So basically when he fires, the first part of firing will be to set the bool to be false. So just let me clarify what I'm doing there. So when at the very beginning the character is going to start walking, so the animation will play, and then when the character is going to fire, so he's going to fire the bullet at the character, so when the character is basically in range, he's going to stop walking. We'll also get him to stop moving, but we'll work on that now. So at the moment the character is going to walk, and he's going to walk to the right. Excellent. And what we want is, we want him to, when he collides with something, to turn around. So I'm going to say, so this is outside of update, so I'm going to go void on collision enter. Actually, I want to say on trigger. Okay, Ontriggerenter 2D, and we'll do that and open that, and we'll come back and fill in what's in those brackets in a second. So let's just have a look. We've got we were using this in class the last day, so we had I can't find it, so we'll just write it. Okay, so so actually, before we go any further, let's go back here to our triggers and make them triggers. So they're both colliders at the moment. So we're just removing their physics. So when I say removing their physics, they'll still register collision, but they just won't stop the character. So our player character can walk through them, not get stuck behind them. So let's go back here to our script. So we're going to say Ontriggerenter 2D, collision 2D, I think it's is it collider? So let's try that again. So I think it's collision 2D and then other. Okay. So we're saying if I have a collision here, so I want to say so I want to say in here, I want to say if other dot game objects dot tag equals, and what did we call it? I think it's still selected here. NPC turn. So if it collides with an object like that, then we're going to flip this bool here, the turn one. So we're going to say turn equals false. Okay. Now, what would be nice is if we had these labeled differently. Now, I could, yeah. So we have this one here. So we're going to walk. Just going to keep this nice and simple because we haven't. I'm just aware of what we've covered or what you've covered with Ross and code. So, so this is called NPC turn. So we're going to rename these tags a little bit. So I'm going to go back in here and go add tags. So I'm going to go to NPC turn, and oh, it's not going to let me edit that. So I'm just going to add another one. So I'm going to go NPC turn right. Okay. So let's just go back in here. And actually, no, let's take that one and give this NPC turn right. So this one's got the tag turn, and this one's got the tag turn right. So our initial direction is we're going to walk to the right. So if it hits the one with NPC turn right, we are going to flip it. So we're going to do that one. Not that one. We'll come back to that. And then we're going to just copy this whole thing. Go paste, and so if it hits that one, then it will flip it back. Okay, and I should have brackets here, and brackets here, and brackets here, and brackets there. Okay, so we're just flicking or spinning it around here. So if I hit one, I'm going to turn. Now we might as well put our movement in here, or at least we need the movement in update, but we need to have it triggered here. So so let's have this turn. This is where we're going to use turn. So we're going to say, so if turn equals true. Oh, actually, we started being false, actually. So we're going to say, if it's false, which it is at the beginning, then walk towards the right. Okay, so then we're going to walk over here and hit this, and then what we're going to say is if turn equals true, and we'll take that guy there, Control C, Control V, and we'll just stick a minus in front of it. So we're going to walk in the other direction. So, and then, so when I collide with this, actually I don't even need to do that, do I? I can actually delete them, because, oh, actually I don't need to, don't need to delete all of them. I can actually just delete all that, because if I'm facing in one direction and then I flip the sprite, I'll then be walking in the other direction. Okay, so let's just save that there and see what incredible compiler errors we get. And it's saying 1323. So 1323. So I should have an F in there if that's going to be a float. And I have a semicolon at the end. Okay, so let's see if we can, what happens when we press play here. Okay, so we haven't assigned any animators, and our triggers aren't working, so we have a whole bunch of things to fix. So, we haven't set our animator, so we need to do that. And it's that one there. And let's do this here. And I'm just going to click that. So turn hasn't, so I've got an error on Ontriggerenter, and turning does not flip my character. So let's go have a look at that, why that's not working. So this should be collider. Collider 2D. Okay. So file, save. Excuse me. And let's press play. We'll worry about the direction and stuff in a minute. So he's walking, and he's walking backwards, and he's walking, and he's walking backwards. Now, And you can see we're firing when we get in range. Okay, so we have made progress of a kind. So our character is ping-ponging backwards and forwards, but we have a couple of little issues to fix. So let's start with true. Okay, so and let's see what that does first. So we're going to start. So I'm walking backwards, and let's start moving in the other direction. So we're going to start by putting a minus there. So, and saving that, because it won't work unless we save it. Okay, so we'll press play. Okay, so we've walked through, and that's not what we wanted. So oh, and I think I see what I've done here. So I need to flip it when it hits this one, and then not when it hits this one. So we'll save that and press play. So I walk forward and I flip, and I'm walking forward here and I flip. So we've got our character walking, and he has stopped walking. So let's see why that is. So let's go to our animations here and have a quick look at the non-player character. So it's got loop time, and so we can undock this, or actually maybe we'll dock it up here and do that. And let's press play and see why this is not. Okay, so I think it's when it collides with the bullet. So let's have a look at this bullet, and this bullet has the tag evil bullet. So, and what have we set here? Oh, my brain is not working, so maybe we'll come back and fix that later. But basically, when I'm colliding with the bullet, that collision is stopping the I'll put this back over here, is stopping the animation. So when walk is true, okay. So let's have a quick look. So when do we say walk is true? So we're saying, okay, so when I fire the bullet, walk becomes false. And I need to, so basically when I get in range of the character, I should, actually let's just remove that. Let's just stay walking all the time. And we'll come back. So I'll have to move if I want to. If I want them to stop, I'll have to take this out of the update. So for now, what we'll do is we'll remove that from there, and we'll come back and do that in another tutorial, because this is getting too long. We are half an hour in, so we've got a good bit done, but more to do. Always more to do. So. yeah, so we'll have fixed that bit. So we will have a character who's walking on a path from there to there, and when he gets within range of the character, he will fire. This is all good. And so now if we look at our script for our character, our player control, and let's have a look at our character here. Okay, so when we put our character in here, so we haven't actually fixed this in our character script, so we need to flip this firing point when on our non-player character as well. But since it's not there, it's not an easy copy and paste. We'll just fix it again. But we'll have to do that, otherwise the non-player character will shoot itself and do all sorts of other things when it shouldn't. So just to finish, what we're going to do is take these guys here and just turn off the sprite renderer. So and then we'll maximize on play, and we'll basically just have our non-player character walk over and see that we have a non-player character that is walking on a path and is being slowed down by its own bullets. So we'll fix all the bullets and flipping the so let's pause it there. So we'll fix all this and we'll get them so that when we get within a certain range, so we won't do this, so we'll get within a certain range, we'll stop, and then we'll fire, and then if the character goes outside of that range, we'll resume our path again. Okay, so we'll leave it there for now and come back and add to this. But this is just one technique to have a look at in terms of getting your characters to walk through a path. There's lots of different ways to do it.